Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, I was asked a very excellent question. I want to answer it, but I don't. I'm going to answer it. But I want to touch this Quran ayat, kind of involving things with the Qadr and things that we should be able to understand, especially being that we're still searching for Laylatul Qadr. But I'm going to say what the question was before I get a thing. A brother asked me, what is Al-Islam? What is Al-Islam? And I'm going to give you some very thorough details on that. Like what is, he was just basically saying, what is Al-Islam and why do they talk like Al-Islam and Islam is two different things? Brother, that's because it is. But let me touch this thing about the Qadr of Allah and to show how the Salaf understood the Quran the way that they did and things like the Qadr, right? The way they was able to expound on just like one ayat, So when it comes to the Qadr of Allah, right? In fact, I wrote down a few ayats for Dalil. So when it comes to the Qadr of Allah, the way they put it, the ulama, past and present, the Qadr is written for you, is written down for you 4 times. Okay? So, once in the preserved tablets. That's what Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? And I'm going to show y'all a very beautiful Quran ayat about that. Matter of fact, look at this right here. Well, let me do this first. Don't let me sidetrack. So one is in the preserved tablet. The second time that the Qadr is written down for you is when you're in the womb after that 120 days, 4 months, or however they word it, when your soul is blew into you. And it's written down for you particular things, how your life is going to be. Things like, maybe you're going to be born with asthma, maybe you're going to be a wealthy person, things like that. So then another time when the Qadr is written, or we could say written or sitting down on you, established, is on Laylatul Qadr. Okay? So, to kind of help people understand this, who these terminologies may sound new, because some people feel like everything that's in the Qadr is written down 50,000 years before this and all these other sayings. Not saying some of them isn't true, but if you believe that, or if that is the understanding, why do people search for Laylatul Qadr the way that we do? The night of the Qadr, which unfortunately in English they always translate it to things like the night of power or the night of glory and things like that, but they should leave it as the night of Qadr, where people can understand it's attached to the Qadr. So if there's no new Qadr, or if things can't be changed in the Qadr, why do we look for Laylatul Qadr? And if it's what is written, it's sent down on that night But this is one of the third occasions when some Qadr come down for you. The fourth occasion is daily occurrences. So let's say on Laylatul Qadr last year, it came down on, and may Allah as always protect us all from this. Matter of fact, let me think of something good. Instead of a bad occurrence. Keep it positive. On November, no, let's go back some. We're going to say on June 21st, it's meant for you to meet your spouse. It's meant for y'all to meet each other. So, y'all both at home or y'all both somewhere. And then somebody may call you and say, hey, you know, like for the guy, you know, the game on, the fight coming on, come through. They be like, all right, well, you need me to get some. Yeah, stop at the store and get this, or, you know, you can bring this if you want. And then you go to the store. They may be at home, if it's the female, and somebody may ask them to do something like make some brownies or bake a cake. Right? And then they'd be like, okay, well, we don't have certain things. Can you run to the store and get this? So now they run to the store. And now y'all meet at the same store. And y'all lock, and that Qadr comes in. This is your spouse. This is meant for y'all. Right? But let's say some things go on where somebody put the evil eye on you, which is something that could change a Qadr in a certain level. And you don't stay in your du'as, or certain things go on, and now something happens where that Qadr is changed to another Qadr. So y'all don't meet. You see? Or it was intended to go a different way, and then you made dua that night before. You did the night prayers. Maybe it was going to be a different day. Maybe it was going to go a certain way, and then you made some duas for Allah. Please allow me to meet my spouse. I'm ready for marriage. I'm ready for this and this. And then because of that dua, that Qadr changed to where y'all met. So what's in the preserved tablets, these is the type of Qadrs that can't be changed. But then there's other forms of the Qadr that can be changed. Where Allah can, it's all Qadr, because when Allah writes something else different for you, it changes to another Qadr. So it's all the Qadr of Allah. You see? So there was this dua, and some of the Quran ayats. Let me touch this one right here, because I want people to understand this. What surah is this in? It might be 85. Because I got different ayats written down, but I didn't distinguish which one went with what. But this is just to show, because me and people been talking about the Bible and things like that, right? The Bible. So in Surah 85, which it is 85, when you go to Surah 85 and then you go to ayah number 20, and it says Allah encompasses them from all sides. 21. In fact, this is a glorious Quran recorded in the preserved tablets. So it's more than just the Qadr that's in the preserved tablets. The Quran was written in the preserved tablets. So that's why they say during certain times, certain ayats from the Quran would come down in the way that they went, and certain situations would happen. You can see how the Qadr and the Quran is all lined up. But also what's in the preserved tablets is not just the Quran. It's the other wahi, the other revelations that Allah Azza wa Jal sent. So to show the power and the might, just like with the Quran being revealed in the way that it's in the preserved tablet, when people try to bring an incorrect understanding or different things on the Day of Judgment, the real Quran, the real understanding, is in the preserved tablets. Just like with the Munafiqun, or not the Kafirs, whatever it is, where Allah sent something down and they corrupted. Oh, well, we thought this, our book said this, but Allah got the real Wahi preserved in the preserved tablets for those other deens. So there's not going to be any escape. Just like if a day come where there's no more books, there's no more paper, and everybody had to look at everything on some form of a electronic device, and now they could possibly come up with ways to corrupt Qurans. Every so often they have to come up with, they have committees. They be catching Qurans. Like it was a few years ago where they had some Qurans that had put some stuff in it, tried to corrupt it, and they have to have them done away with. Some of them they had to take them completely out of print. But once it reached electronic devices, which that day may possibly come, and it may be some people who may be able to toy with it over the internet through electronic devices, but what's real is going to always be in the preserved tablets. So it's more than just the Qadr that's preserved in these tablets. Alright? So the Qadr, our Qadr is recorded, sent down, whatever word people are comfortable with, on 4 different occasions. It's in the preserved tablets while you're in the womb, and the angels is writing down, right, what's for your Qadr. Laylatul Qadr, which we still searching for during the last 10 nights of Ramadan on an odd night, specifically search for it on an odd night, and then in your daily lives. So when you understand this, and you understand there's a Qadr that can be changed, and then there's a Qadr that can't be changed, but it's all the Qadr of Allah. One Qadr will just be exchanged for another one. So Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, the Khalifa, used to make a dua that, I'm paraphrasing it, if Allah has some bad things written down for him, like the hellfire, or just anything bad, if it was written down in his Qadr, he asked Allah to change it for a new Qadr, for something in the opposite, basically. If you wrote the hellfire down for me as part of my Qadr, change it to Jannah. You see, and the Quran ayat, which is we talking about the way they understood the Quran. Look at this Quran ayat that he used to use as dalil. In Surah 13, ayat number, it's either 29, 39, hold on, number 39, where Allah Azza wa Jal says, but I'm going to read 38 also. And most surely we have sent messengers before you, and we assigned for them spouses and offsprings. And never was it for a messenger to come with a sign except by Allah's leave. For every term, for every situation, for everything that goes on, there's a decreed term. There's a Qadr for it, right? And then Allah Azza wa Jal says, Allah erases whatever Allah decides to erase, and keeps whatever He decides to keep of the Qadr. So Allah Azza wa Jal is letting it be known in His Quran that something that's the Qadr for a certain thing, Allah can erase that and change it to something else. So Umar and amongst the Salaf, they used to use this Quran ayat to ask Allah, if you have something bad written for me in the Qadr, to change it, erase that, and rewrite something good for me. So understanding that and knowing that, and then when you understand through Quran al-Kareem and the Quran and the Sunnah, the 4 different occasions when the Qadr is there for you. And the preserved tablets, where it can't, those is the Qadr that can't be changed. What's written for you in your womb, while you still in the womb, these things through dua, through deeds, through actions, and through the evil eye, these is things that could be changed. Right? On Laylatul Qadr, standing, performing, doing good deeds, and things when Laylatul Qadr, or being in reverse, doing bad deeds. And the same in the womb. It could be some good that was written for you, but you choose to go some different routes and do different things, and now it's rewritten to something bad. Laylatul Qadr, you could be out there doing the wrong things and on that night, and then what was good sent down for you, Allah can erase that and rewrite it for something bad for you. All right. So, and then of course on your everyday lives and occurrences, that dua, them deeds, that sincerity, and Quran and Sunnah, and doing things in accordance with Quran and Sunnah, it matters. Because these things that can affect the Qadr that can be changed. And Allah Azza wa Jal is making it clear in the Quran, even with certain ayahs in the Quran. If I cause something to be forgotten, then I replaced it with something better. You see? Or if I decide where there's a particular ruling in the Quran, where Allah decides there's a certain ruling, and then He want to change it and abrogate it and replace it with something else, Allah could do that. Allah could do the same thing with the Qadr. So when you understand that a little bit better, we should be able to do better. You feel me? Daqiq, 1 second. Okay. So Al-Islam. What is Al-Islam? All right. So there's a couple of things that you have to understand. And of course, this is a terminology that you hear amongst the African American Muslims, a particular group. Right? So, of course, we know the Nation of Islam, under the leadership of Elijah Muhammad, referred to themselves as Muslims that practice Islam. All right? When his son, Wafdeen Muhammad, decided to, once he inherited the nation, or took the nation, or when his attempts to go through certain things, which is not really well documented, but when he kind of rose up against his father and was kicked out of the nation, and he was talking to the other Muslims about Al-Islam, which they'll say is traditional Islam or classical Islam, right? Or Orthodox original Islam. He was using this terminology to say what the Nation of Islam has is in Islam. So Al-Islam was a term that was used to distinguish what he was coming with from what the Nation of Islam had. We're going to Al-Islam, which he referred to as traditional, classical, right? Orthodox form of Islam. But was it really Quran and Sunnah up on Ijma? Absolutely not. No disrespect to him, and not saying some of it wasn't, because you have to look at the wordplay. Because when you understand the group and the ones who follow them, when they use the term Al-Islam, they're speaking about a version of Islam for black people to practice during modern times. So, if it's traditional Islam, if it's Orthodox Islam, if it's classical Islam, if it's the original Islam, the ancient version of Islam that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions practice, then how was it adjusted for black people in America? How can our Islam, a version of Islam that has been grafted for black people to practice in America during modern times, how is that traditional, classical, orthodox, original Islam? It don't make any sense. It's wordplay. Because originally, this term was to distinguish the Islam that the Nation of Islam has and what I'm coming with as Elijah Muhammad's son isn't the same thing. They don't have Islam. So we have our Islam. And then for people who may understand the Arabic and this and that, know that it really, no knock to him, his affair has been decided. So nobody is trying to criticize him or say anything about him. But knowing when he's saying our Islam, and anybody who understand Arabic is really just saying the Islam. Al basically means the. So the Islam. We practice the Islam. But in the 70s, and when people who didn't really understand, oh, okay, so the Nation of Islam is practicing Elijah Muhammad version of Islam, but us, the War of Deen community, we're practicing our Islam, which is traditional Islam, but this is the way black people practice it in America due to times being modern. So now you have to look at what do the teachings entail. Do it change what's in Quran and Sunnah? Some of the teachings from that day where the women don't have to cover up unless they're in a masjid or their husband isn't around, and they don't have to completely cover. They just have to put something over their head, a scarf. Their hair can show. But if their husband is around, they don't have to cover. Is that traditional Islam? No. There's no Jum'ah service because Jum'ah isn't in the Quran. Things like that. We talking about back then. So they still having things like on Sundays like church. Is that traditional, original Islam? No. And during to times being modern, can you change it to that? No. But that's our Islam. And I won't go into too many details because I don't want to offend anybody who take this as a personal attack, like it's an attack on War of Deen Muhammad, which is not. But when you understand the term al-Islam and what's taught with it, and these are the things, because one, if you're doing traditional, original Islam, they're going to tell you what? You practicing Islam like an Arab. That's Arab stuff. See, our Islam is the way that a black man is supposed to practice Islam in America. That's what our Islam is. You just have to understand the terminology, and then you have to look at what was the real teachings back then. Of course, there are some adjustments that's been made over the years with people starting to understand the Quran and the Sunnah a little better. And now Jum'ahs is being established, Jum'ah services. People starting to talk about different things from the minbar. But now, like some of these newer, younger ones who grew up in that, they're trying to slowly reintroduce that, like it's a version of Islam that's better for blacks in America. And then they started to use that terminology again, al-Islam, which if you look at it in Arabic and understand the al, all it's saying is the Islam. You know what I'm saying? So if they be like, what's your religion? You be like Islam or the Islam. You be like the Islam. Yeah, I practice the Islam. But if you say al-Islam, especially during the time in the 70s, but really this is something that distinguished the Islam that the Nation of Islam claimed that they have. Okay? That's the original terminology. This distinguished the version of Islam they have from what we have. So it's al-Islam, which means nothing but the Islam. When you take the al off and say the Islam, man, we over here practicing the Islam. It doesn't sound right. But al-Islam may have, to people who didn't have particular understanding, it sound like they've been handed something, some slick terminology. No knock to it, not saying what his intentions was, but it ties into the understanding of the Arabic and certain things, the wordplay. And when you look at what was really being taught at that time, was it 5 daily salats or was it 3? Was it fasting? Was Ramadan this or was it still December? Was it this? Was it that? Like, what was those teachings? Was it Adam wasn't a real person? He was just a symbolization of man. Is this real, traditional Islam that came from the tongue of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Some of that stuff that was cloaked under the terminology al-Islam? No. But then when you really look at it, is some of that stuff still a carry-on from the Nation of Islam? Yep. Yeah. Most definitely. So, in reality, regardless of how they try to word it now, al-Islam and the Islam. So when they say al-Islam, when you hear an African American person, especially who cut from that cloth, and they referring to al-Islam, they are really technically speaking of a version of Islam that Imam Wharf Dean Muhammad came with. So the al-Islam is still a way of distinguishing it from Arab Islam, from the Nation of Islam. So al-Islam is a version that Imam Wharf Dean Muhammad came with. That's what it is. And you look, and sometimes, man, it troubled me, like when I hear like people who was Moorish Americans and these different type of things, people who feel like if it wasn't for Elijah Muhammad, black people wouldn't know what Muslims was or Islam was, when Noble Drew Ali was using these terminologies before Elijah Muhammad, before Fard Muhammad. Fard Muhammad took it from Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali, and it be Moors. It's like, how was you a Moor and you don't even understand that Noble Drew Ali was speaking it before Elijah Muhammad? But the Nation of Islam built up this terminology to where, at least for the wordplay, Noble Drew Ali don't get no credit for it, which was able to talk about treaties and different things that was with people from Morocco, where it has in there where they was referring to people that was Muslim. When you look at presidents and things that was in America before the life of Noble Drew Ali and them, and they had Qurans. Thomas Jefferson's and people like this. So Islam was definitely prevalent way before them. But this dirty black version, which has nothing to do with Islam, but traces of some of the principles and terminology, yeah. But al-Islam, as they call it, the traditional Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, it's not that. And that's just a reality, man. So once you start hearing words like al-Islam, your ears need to go up. Your ears need to go up. Not saying you won't hear some good stuff, especially from some of the newer people, but they still might be trying to block Quran and Sunnah. And Islam is not that, man. It's not. So that's not no knock or no diss. And over the years, a lot of the War of Deen stuff, man, they've been trying to clean it up. Just like he was trying to clean up what his father did, but still not lose the building and the coming together of black people. You know, trying to get together and start businesses and trying to be functioning adults throughout society. Civilized, what they consider to be civilized adults under Islamic principles, as no eating no pork. Not only eating, but living very clean lives. Not displaying yourself like a fool in public. Always being dignified, carrying yourself with dignity and high standards of integrity in public, because you want to be that form of dawah. You want people to see you and be a part of what you are. You know, not displaying yourself with an extremely high level of ignorance and what's considered to be ignorance in America. Talking all loud in the stores, mistreating each other as married couples, and brothers and sisters, brothers mistreating brothers, and, you know, killing each other, cousins killing cousins, and all this ignorance that was the surroundings and the environment that was created by the people that once owned us to stop us from rising. Those Islamic principles. You see? Being careful what you eat. You know what I'm saying? Not getting caught up in these things, which all is Islamic principles. But some of the other stuff, this person is God in person, and this person is this, and this person is this, and these people do this, and there is no Jumu'ah, and there is no this, and this. See, that's the bad part about it. So they trying to figure out a way to put the Islam in your hand, but not to take away the black growth. So they feel like, because instead of us having our own masjids and our own temples, we keep joining these Arab temples, and we losing our sense of building. We at a point in time where the majority of the temples that was associated with Islam, through the eyes of way we seen it, which in reality it might have been 30 masjids in Chicago and 2 Nation of Islam temples. But for us, there's no other masjids nowhere around. There was no masjids in America until the Nation of Islam started building them, which is not true. Now, if you wanted to call them black masjids or black mosque, then you may have some footing, some ground to stand on. So they still haven't quite figured out how to blend the two. How can we keep building the way that the Nation of Islam did, but bring in Islamic teachings and not give the credits to the Arabs and still keep that credit for us? That's what our Islam is. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. And it ain't no secret. Yeah, we do need to do better as a people, Muslim and non-Muslim. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. We should be able to put our heads together. And don't get me wrong, because there's a lot of cities that have that. And it's starting to happen, but the thing is, the teachings that slid through. And like a lot of people who listen to me talk, and I always say it, man, and I be wanting people to understand, man, you know, Illinois is the home of bogus Islam, man. Like how you listen to like people who into listening to like things like masonry, and they call him clandestine, the grandfather of bogus masonry and this and that. Why do I say it's the home of bogus Islam? Because this is the place where they planted their flags. Yeah, Detroit, they had some things going on in Detroit. Noble Drew Ali was somewhere else, but in Chicago is where his flag was planted. It's where he lived. This is where he stomped. This is where he died. This is a place where some of them Moorish Americans think you need to make Hajj to. Chicago. The holy city. And this version of Islam, that this Islamism and being a Muslim and this stuff, the way this stuff got translated into the gang culture, not only through Jeff Fort and the Black Peace Stones, but through people like Mahdi, for people who know who Mahdi is, and Pierre, and some of them who instilled some of this stuff through the Vice Lord lessons. The Vice Lords, the Stones, the Four Corner Hustlers, the Mickey Cobras, all these different branches. You know, some things that people don't even know about anymore, like Black Souls and different things. All this this bogus Islamic literature that started through the Moors, transitioned through that. So this form of Islam is so prevalent. And then you had the Nation of Islam, who came in and polished it. They black suit and tied it. They threw the dignity and big words and fancy Don King dictionary speech on it. You see? They polished it. They mafiaed it. So, it's the home of bogus Islam, man. Even for no knock the Imam War of Deen, but you know, the things that's reality, some of the stuff that came through that. This is his home. This is where they stomped. Throughout Illinois. Yeah, it spread, but so it's this stuff, what the nation did, what the Moorish Americans did, these things is woven within black culture. When you go through and you look at some of your so-called kings of particular gang sets, they was Moorish Americans. And then some of them became what they call Sunni Muslims, but they got a whole lot of Moorish nation, War of Deen, gang literature mixed in their Islam. So like right now, it's just a big ball of all of that with Islamic terminology. Quran, Sunnah, yada yada yada, you know, beards, thobe, but the teachings, a lot of the teachings not right. A lot of the teachings is mixed under what tribe you was in. Illinois is the home of bogus Islam, man. And it's prevalent. And until you have a certain level of education, you can't see it. So a lot of the Muslims that's in it, involved, they can't see it, man. They can't see how bogus their Islam is. And because of how highly they think they are and the way that they present it, because it's really a part of the street. It's really a part of your level of the street, being Muslim. So a lot of people can't see how bogus their Islam is, man. Just like when you hear, and I'm going to speak on this just briefly. When you hear people refer to a Philly Muslim, and then you have people from Philly, it's insulting to them, and it should be. But they can't see it. When you outside of Philly, you know exactly what somebody mean when they say a Philly Muslim. But because Quran and Sunnah and seeking knowledge and memorizing the Quran and memorizing du'as is so much a part of the culture over there. It's so much a part of the culture. Everybody will know a little bit of Quran and Sunnah. Just like bogus Islam is so much interwoven into the culture of Chicago, black culture, people can't see how bogus their Islam is. So like for instance in Philly, not saying you won't see it anywhere else, but like for instance, like even me being in Philly, you might be in Philly in a car with some people high out their mind on Percocets, Muslims. No diss, not trying to slander. Not saying it was like that today, but at a particular times when I was around, they can be high off their mind on Percocets, selling Percocets. Not saying you won't see this where any other Muslims or like in Chicago. But their pants might be above the ankles. They might have on all white crispy thobes, might have crispy crazy beards with oil all in it, riding around listening to the Quran and can recite out their mind. Might even have 50, 60 surahs memorized. But they riding around high off Percocets, selling Percocets to other Muslims with guns looking to kill other Muslims while they own the Sunnah. And the Quran is playing, and it might be whatever surah, and then let's say it's 4 people in the car, and 3 out of the people in there can all recite these surahs as it's going. And that's what people be meaning by Philly Muslim. Because yeah, you might see Muslims with different type of behavior somewhere else, but they have a bogus version of Islam. They don't really understand hadith. Hadith might be superstition to them. You might see a person, man, who got 40 hadith of Norway memorized and front to back isnads, half the Quran memorized and everything, but they might be one of the worst street people you've met. To where they have enough because Quran, Sunnah, seeking knowledge is so prevalent throughout that society that everybody got a piece of it. So like an Illinois Muslim, man, like a lot of people just don't have a clue, man, how bogus the Islam is, man. But I'm gonna get off of that, man, because I ain't trying to bother nobody or start nothing. But you know, I pray for it, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's because we still trying to keep it black. Just like with me, the times when I toyed with the 5%ers, I didn't believe none of that, like the black man is God, none of that. I didn't accept none of that, but I was trying to keep being some form of a black Muslim. You have to understand, even coming up as a child, Islam was always woven into something black to me as a child. We didn't even know that there was a such thing. Islam was for black people. It was a black person's religion. That's all I knew. I knew black Muslims before I knew Arab Muslims. Before Saudi Arabia, Mecca, as little kids. I didn't know none of that. We in Chicago seeing the newspapers. Like I said, my mom, best friend, was a member of the Nation of Islam that transitioned within the Wharf-Dean community. My pops, his cousin, member of the Nation of Islam that transitioned to the Wharf-Dean community. So coming up as little kids, and I'm with my mom's best friend children who went to court and had their name legally changed to Muslim names. Tawfiq, Ali, Roger, Akila. They getting their names, Thamina. You know, these is people who getting their name changed, and I'm around them, and Islam is the black people religion. So just that being embedded into me, as long as I knew life, it wasn't until I started getting into certain levels of school, 7th and 8th grade, where we in history classes and now wars and stuff is breaking out. Like, whoa, it's Arab Muslims. Like, you see what I'm saying? And you know, you in Chicago and we getting the final calls and seeing the Nation of Islam and all that. I didn't even you see what I'm saying? So throughout my journey, even through the gang of me becoming Muslim and this and that, no real masjids, no Quran, no nothing, just this gang stuff, man. I was still trying to cling on to some black Islam, man. You know, and being a 5%er or being a more in these type of things, I could still have girlfriends, I could still smoke, I could still drink. I ain't got to pray 5 times. I didn't even believe you were supposed to pray 5 times. I was just as disrespectful as them. Oh man, the Prophet Muhammad, he did that. Well, I didn't even say Prophet, man, Muhammad did that. The Quran don't say that. The Quran don't say this. And I'm sitting up saying this stuff out of my mouth and never even read a Quran. I hadn't even seen one. Wallahi. Hadn't even seen one. You know? And I'm falling into different things because I'm trying to figure out how to keep being a black Muslim. Because being a black Muslim meant I could be Muslim, but I don't have to do the stuff that Islam tell me to do. Be married, don't drink, stay out the streets. I can hustle, I can gamble, whatever. Have multiple girlfriends under the guise of black Islam, man. And that's how I even ended up toying with the 5%ers. It's dangerous, man. So, you know, that's just a long version, man, of what our Islam is. I'm pretty sure there's going to be people who so cloaked up under that and from an older generation, no, that ain't what our Islam is. Okay, well then what's the difference between our Islam and Islam? If that's not what it is. Our Islam is some form of black nationalized version of Islam, man. That's just in reality. And when you look at the terminology, it was a way to distinguish what the Nation of Islam is calling Islam isn't it. We have it. And it's our Islam, which is traditional Islam, but practice traditional Islam and they're going to say you trying to be like an Arab. That version of Islam is for the people of the past. This is modern. This is the new version of Islam for black people in America. And that's what our Islam is. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.